take it more seriously, something like if you've got heart problems, your whole system is limited by what your heart can do.
Yeah.
But your body isn't just to look after your heart, the whole of me isn't just to look after my heart. I don't know, is that clear enough?
Yeah, I like that. It's exactly...
I think you've got to ask them. but it does take some listening, doesn't it? It does take some readjustment, because I think, just thinking from the principles of the Be Inspired program about how much conditioning is driven to to separation, to create this understanding of us as separate and individual and different and independent. And I think a lot of our consciousness is there before we actually think about it. And I think if we were, I mean, imagine the Red Indian cultures were a lot more aligned to systemic wind. That they were the land, they were part of an Aboriginal and maybe more indigenous people had a far more
relationship with the land,
less in the way to understand that what they're doing and what they take from the stream or the river or the sea is part of the whole. Whereas we go to the supermarket and pick up a chicken or whatever,
disassociated from
there's no connection.
Yeah.
We've lost that through industrialisation and modernisation, all the things we talked about. We've lost that moment by moment understanding that we're connected to everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not so sure that there was this amazing, fantastic, harmonious past.
No.
I think things like the American Indians, some of them got to a really amazing level of understanding just before the Europeans arrived and everything fell apart. But I don't think their history, I think their history had plenty of really nasty stuff that wasn't particularly, it's like, do we pay attention to what's happening to our environment? Humanity hasn't done in the past. When humanity first got to Australia, complete and utter devastation. And when humanity first got to the Americas, again, the amount of devastation was unbelievable. A number of species got wiped out and things. So, you see, one of the things I think is that in evolution, you never have to look after, nothing ever has to look after the environment. The environment is so amazing. All creatures do is take from the environment and they discharge into it. And we're the first creature, as far as I can see, that actually has to say we've got to limit ourselves. We've become so powerful through technology that we can actually damage our environment. No other creature can seriously damage its environment.
Well, most other creatures create an environment, don't they? When you put, was it wolves back into, I don't know, it's America or Scotland or somewhere, they put wolves into this area and then the whole place changed and other animals came in and other things grew and it was just because of the reintroduction of a native species into that area created a whole ecosystem around it. It was phenomenal.
There's a really interesting one about that with the national parks in America, is that they actually realize they need to put the top predator in, which is humans. Back into the national parks, actually there as hunter-gatherers. That whole system evolved with all of that.
Did you hear there's a couple that had bought some land, I think down in Dorset or somewhere, and they wanted it to go back to nature. And the first season, all the brambles took over and all the pathways disappeared and all their neighbours were like, "You're crazy, go and get some weed killer and get rid of it all." But they stood their ground and they waited and waited for it to... And what happened again, different predators came in, they had the deer arrived and then they had... various other creatures, the badgers turned up and eventually they got otters in the river. But bit by bit, one time there was a load of insects that were not doing any good, then a load of butterflies turned up and got rid of the insects and it just, nature took care of what man wasn't taking care of, and eventually they were able to bring in some livestock, some hogs and different creatures that should have been there. That again, they were like, oh, these pigs are running riot all over the place, but eventually they were the ones that looked after the pathways so they could see all the pathways were back in. So it took about 5 years of holding their faith and holding their nerve, and now they've got a perfect nature reserve and they are living off of the land. So we are so busy to slash and burn in everything, isn't it? It's like even individually as a person, oh, you're overweight, go on a diet. It's a 5-2, you starve for 5 days and eat for 2, or is it the other way around? There's kind of that, it's all or nothing. You know, and again, it's like, I deserve this, I want this, so we become consumers. We're going to buy this solution, we're going to buy that solution. I seem to have found lately, it's an awful lot of people that are navel-gazing and working on themselves. And I'm like, well, yeah, but work with other people as well, because then you learn more about yourself when you're hearing how you appear to other people.
You see, I suppose what I would say is there are 3 levels to ourselves. You know, there's that sort of central level which we can identify, sort of seeing a sort of body, mind being over there. But if we don't realise we are also the environment and identify with it, I can't just say, oh, it's that out there. With the power and influence we have, we've actually got to step up. You know, it's why people talk about leadership, is that it's not so much the leader does the amazing thing, but they hold the whole picture. You know, a good leader is looking after the whole that they're part of. They're not just saying, I want it all for me. So that's what we need to do, is to shift that identity up. You know, one of the things I'm really interested in is how do we make sure that the children aren't even conceived or born yet, have a better world to come into. So who are those of us who are holding that space to make sure that we're not just using it up now, and there's just pollution and mess for them later on.
Yeah. And I think that's your role within BeCollaboration, isn't it? You are holding the space. You've created it. You had the vision behind it, but now your role is not to go around bringing in collaborators. It is to hold the space for those that are coming in. I
think not just hold the space, but set the tone and let people engage with it. So this morning I posted on Journey of Possibility Facebook page, and I was out this morning. I go out early in the morning at 6 in the morning. I do my 4-mile walk and come back and some stretching, a bit of jogging. But I kind of found myself a little bit been doing a lot of talking lately in front of the room and and I was like, what do I want to talk about today? What do I want to bring to notice? And I was just like looking around me and looking at like you said about the trees. I just started to look at the trees and started to focus in on one tree, and I went up and I thought, I'm going to hug this tree. So I put my arms around the tree and I just started hugging it. And at first I felt a bit awkward, a bit weird. I was going to walk past and and I wouldn't say it was some kind of miraculous experience. There was. I don't think I got that present to it, but I was there. I was doing it, and I thought to myself, you know what? What I said is actually today, take some time. We live in 2 main, I'd say at the moment, there's 2 big scarcity conversations we live in, I believe, and one I call the money cult, and the other one's the scarcity of time. So I just paused the camera for a bit. I was walking over the river, and I just stopped and paused the camera and went, take time today and pause and just breathe. I said, so I was 50 a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you know Paul.
I think anyone BeCollaboration didn't know would probably be deaf and blind.
They're not paying attention. But I kind of thought to myself, if we're redistinguishing this fear scarcity paradigm, and there isn't enough time, and I'm not enough, and you're not enough, and Gill's not enough, and it's bigger. I think he was joking. He was kind of pulling my tail a bit earlier about being paranoid. I don't believe that's true, and I'm sure he was joking. But if we really think it's that doomed, then we've got inside that scarcity paradigm. We've already apathetic. We've already given up. And I think in terms of holding the space, that's what this is about. That's why we're spending an hour having in-depth conversations. Sometimes they're fun and light, but also they're very meaningful conversations about getting these ideas out. So if we think in a certain way, then we act in that way, then the outcomes. It's not. In fact, I think this is what I said. It's a classic coaching. You look at the problem, you change your view of the problem changes because you don't have an independent view of anything. It's all through your filters, so you can, chop and change. So I think, in terms of systemic win, is we are seeing more and more evidence supporting everything we set out to achieve. Today being a brilliant day for that. And I said to her, don't worry, by the end of the day, someone will tell you, I said, some arsehole will tell you today you're doing it all wrong.
Yeah.
And I thought, and at the end of the day, you can't be too connected to what people endorse and what they don't endorse. No. You kind of got to keep learning and keep taking ground. And I think in terms of systemic win, are we still producing the outcome that we intended to, like regularly, despite the setbacks?
I mean, I think one of the things that's really important in some ways, systemic win is one side and the other side is systemic lose. And I think I should also say a bit about the background, because I came across the idea of you should go from win-win to sort of win-lose to win-win, from sort of Stephen Covey. And I always thought, that's interesting, but it's just, it's really easy for you and me to win, but we're already organised and in a good place. And it doesn't take care of others around us and doesn't take care of the environment, or it could even be win-win-win. But how do we take care of that whole that we're part of? That's why I call it systemic win. It has to work for me, for you, but it has to work for that which we're part of as well.
Well, in the vision and mission, we did say, I know we said win-win-win in the vision and mission. So what I was alluding to is we win, our collaborators win, the planet wins. It was articulating what you've articulated in more depth, I'd say. It was like anything I do, or we do as an organisation, creates positive outcomes that we're working towards that, as opposed to business says, step on someone else and get where you need to get to. It's only business, don't take it personally, and all that kind of self-interest. And we still see it to this day. Someone will get in front of the room and start presenting, and I'm looking there going, and I'll look at Gill look at me and goes, that is some person in front of the room in their identity surviving, wanting to look the part, wanting to impress, wanting to be loved, wanting to be acknowledged.
Well, if I'm in front of the room, I'm doing that. Point it out, please.
But this isn't criticising. We're not criticising anybody.
It's an observation.
It's like anything. If you're a music producer, you can tell someone to sing.
But it's limiting. I mean, it has a limitation that's just not needed.
But it's hard. But I think the thing is, going back to the systemic lose side of things, I think we're highly conditioned to that, to survival. And I think that's the issue.
I mean, the really simple idea, in some ways it's too simple, is that in the moment, something's going to happen and I'm going to react and then respond to it. Does what I do, reacting and responding, make it better or worse? And if I make it worse for you, so I might do really well, but you're not going to help me next, you're probably going to do the opposite. So if I react well, so it gets better for you, you react well, it gets better for those around you. We are creating systemic win, and life actually does that. That's evolution. But it's really easy to go the other way, where something happens, I react badly, I make it worse for you, you make it worse for those around you, and we all just, it goes into a downward spiral. And we really need to name which we're in.
Yes.
Because I do quite a lot of conflict resolution, mediation, that type of stuff. And the bit of advice I always give, I say that if you're in a conflict and someone says something that upsets you, hurts you, irritates you, you will feel justified in saying something horrible back to them. And they will then probably do the same to you. But are you going to cope better with the escalated situation? So don't escalate the situation. However justified you feel, however right it feels, well, I'm suffering so they should suffer. But that creates systemic lose. But so often in our interactions, we don't, our immediate thing is, I feel justified doing this, I feel like doing it, I'll do it. And we've really got to look at those systemic consequences. And so many conflicts just escalate and escalate. And I think it's one of the worst things in our society, that we sort of think it's okay for people to fall out and then they don't talk to each other again.
It's bizarre, isn't it? I don't
but it pollutes all of our atmospheres, because then it's like, I can't talk, you're my friend, but I can't really talk to, because then
it's like if a couple get divorced and it's like, well, who do you get in the custody as a friend? Do you get him or her? You know, it's like there has to be, you have to take sides, and I'm not into that at all. Interestingly though, how do you find it? Now you've identified systemic win for yourself, have you noticed a change in your relationships? Have you kind of put it into relationships where you can say, well, before systemic win, that relationship would have been lost, but now we've kept it going?
That has been one of the things that's almost motivated me.
Right.
Was I would rather, if I've made a mistake, there's some friendships, you meet someone, you don't, it's still okay, and something happens, you think, oh, don't like him, okay. But I find so often, if I push through that, you actually find there's real gold there in that person, but it's just I haven't it's something at the face value. Now sometimes some people are pretty dodgy and you have to be careful with, but I'd much rather find the best in people